Hey church family, Nick here for Morning Devotions. We're in Matthew 27 today. It's a heavy chapter. It talks about the trial and the crucifixion of Jesus. With our kiddos, we always try to read it along with chapter 28, the resurrection of Jesus. But something jumped out at me today, even though I've read it many times before, and it was how Jesus is in the face of a false accusation or many false accusations. Have you ever been falsely accused? Or have you ever been punished for something that you've been falsely accused of? Now, I grew up in a big family and I was sent off to boarding school, so yeah, it's happened to me many times. And for our kids, nothing drives them more bananas if we think they've done something when one of their siblings has done it. They vehemently defend themselves. And rightly so. Justice is important. And I believe justice is important to God. I was trained in the law and worked in that field. And I think that God can be honoured by those who pursue justice. This week, my wife and I watched a movie called Just Mercy, off of a book by the same name by a guy called Brian Stevenson, who relentlessly pursues justice for those who have been denied justice. And he's a man of faith, and I think he does it in a way that honours God. It's great. There's something in this trial, though, something else that's going on. Jesus remains silent. And it struck me today, and I wondered why. The Jewish leaders, they had a problem. This upstart from Galilee, well, he'd been equating himself with God. He'd been drawing crowds. He'd been taking power from them, and they didn't like it. They wanted to put him to death. The trouble was that they couldn't do that. They didn't have the power to do that. So they brought him before the Roman governor. They're in a bit of a double bind though, because the Roman governor was not going to give out the death penalty for someone who was, being heretical according to Jewish religious tradition. So they trumped up these charges and said, he said that he's king of the Jews. They tried to make it political. And Pilate says to him, is this true, what you've said? And Jesus says to him, yes, as you have said. It's an enigmatic reply. We know from the rest of Matthew that that was Jesus' way of saying, yes, as you have said so, drawing it out of someone. But for the rest of the trial, Jesus remains silent. All these other accusations are heaped upon him and heaped upon him, but he doesn't say a word. We knew from Isaiah 53 that that would be the case, that he would be silent before the accusations. In a funny sort of way, though, these accusations were more true than any of them could have imagined. In Isaiah 9, it says, the government will be on his shoulders, Messiah's shoulders. This is the one who is wonderful counselor, mighty Father, everlasting Prince of Peace. This is who Jesus is. It's more true than they could have imagined, except they were saying he's a phony. He held himself out to be something that he isn't. But Jesus said nothing. In Proverbs 10, it says, when words are many, sin is not absent, but he or she who holds their tongue is wise. How do you go with that? I know I could do with help in that. Before lockdown, one of our kiddos brought something home from school, and it said, before you speak, think. Is what you're about to say true? Is it helpful? Is it important? Is it necessary? Is it kind? The only way, friends, that Jesus could hold his tongue here was he knew there was something more important going on. He had God's perspective. So today, as we go about our days, my prayer for you is that we would think before we speak and that we would have more of God's perspective. Be blessed.